Stop scrolling. Look at this map. The greatest secret our ancestors kept wasn't buried gold. It was a global map defining specific geographical points on Earth where reality feels different. What if every single major monument, the Great Pyramid, Angkor Wat, the temples of Teotihuacan, was not built randomly? What if the ancient civilizations knew something profound about the planet's hidden energy field that we have completely forgotten? We are diving into the ultimate architectural mystery, the possibility that our ancestors deliberately mapped out the locations of spiritual portals, building their most important structures right on top of them. For centuries, modern science dismissed the belief in ley lines and power vortexes as simple folklore. We assumed the builders of the pyramids just liked big stones. But when you overlay a world map with these so-called sacred sites, the pattern is too precise to be coincidence. Think of our planet not as a giant rock, but as a massive living circuit board. These specific geographical points, where the temples stand, are the nodes, the power outlets, where the planet's subtle magnetic and vibrational energy concentrates. This isn't just about good feng shui, this is about capturing raw terrestrial power. But here's the plot twist. We aren't just talking about magnetic fields. Some researchers believe these structures act as energetic funnels, stabilizing areas where the veil between dimensions is thinnest. This raises the mind-bending question. If these places truly hold amplified energy, what were the ancient civilizations doing with it? Were they communicating? Were they healing? Or were they simply protecting the location of something far more volatile? This is the core of the ancient mystery. If you've ever felt a strange pull or intense calm visiting places like Stonehenge or the Giza Plateau, you might have already experienced this phenomenon firsthand. Before we dive into the staggering visual evidence, tell me, have you ever visited a sacred point and felt that unusual energy? Comment your theory about the true purpose of these sites right now. Stop scrolling, stop right there. Have you ever looked at a map of the world's most iconic ancient ruins, Giza, Machu Picchu, Stonehenge, and noticed something deeply unsettling? They aren't just scattered randomly. They are placed with impossible precision, as if built using a global blueprint, known only to civilizations separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years. We are talking about a secret map, a sacred geometry that suggests our ancestors didn't just pick a nice spot for a temple, they were deliberately building on the Earth's power grid. Imagine the Earth is not just a solid rock, but a giant complex battery, constantly humming with invisible energy currents. Now imagine certain spots on that battery are terminals, places where the charge is strongest, where the veil between dimensions is thinnest. The ancients didn't call them portals or vortices, they called them sacred. The key to unlocking this global mystery lies in the concept of ley lines. Dismissed for decades by mainstream archaeology as mere pseudoscience, ley lines are proposed alignments of ancient sites, megaliths, and natural landmarks. Picture them like invisible energetic highways wrapping around the globe. When you connect sites like the Great Pyramid, Easter Island, and the ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro, the alignments are so exact, the probability of it being random drops to near zero. But here's where it gets truly mind-bending. It's not just about aligning 3 points, it's about a comprehensive global geometric structure. Respected researchers and fringe physicists have mapped these points onto a massive geometric net. Specifically, models based on an icosahedron or dodecahedron overlaid onto the planet. This model suggests the Earth has 12 primary energetic nodes and many secondary ones, often corresponding exactly to where major ancient civilizations decided to plant their most powerful monuments. Think about the sheer impossibility of that coordination. How did the builders of the pyramids in Egypt know where the Inca in Peru were going to build their mountain strongholds? They didn't have Google Earth. They didn't have radio. Yet, their sacred sites often sit at the intersection points of these alleged ley lines, the power nexus points. It's as if they all had access to the same secret GPS map of planetary energy. Take the example of the Great Pyramid of Giza. We know it aligns almost perfectly with true north, a feat of engineering still baffling today. But less discussed is its location. The Great Pyramid is situated almost exactly at the center of the Earth's landmass. If you drew a circle around all the continents, the pyramid sits at the geographical bullseye. Was this merely an accident? Or did the builders possess knowledge of global cartography that modern science assumes they couldn't possibly have had? The indigenous cultures, especially in places like the American Southwest and Australia, didn't just build on these spots. They lived with them. They developed disciplines known as geomancy and feng shui, ancient sciences dedicated entirely to understanding, harnessing and respecting the flow of Earth's energy. They knew that placing a structure at an energetic node could amplify prayer, facilitate healing, or crucially affect consciousness. They understood that these sites were places of transference, where subtle energies could be directed or accessed. They weren't just building temples, they were building tuning forks for the planet. Now, if you're finding this fascinating, and you want to keep exploring the secrets the ancients left behind, hit that like button right now and subscribe, because you definitely don't want to miss the next piece of this cosmic puzzle. And here's the plot twist you won't see coming. While we often think of this power grid theory as ancient history, the concept of strategically powerful geometric points is highly relevant today. Why do some of the world's largest military installations, sensitive research facilities, and nuclear power plants sit on or suspiciously close to these historically recognized energy nodes? Coincidence? Or are modern powers, perhaps unknowingly, still referencing the same sacred blueprint that guided the Mayans and the Egyptians? Consider the specific case of the Bermuda Triangle. Mainstream science blames bad weather and faulty navigation, but when you map the alleged ley lines, the Bermuda Triangle is often plotted as the intersection of several strong energetic currents, creating what some theorists call a vortex of instability. This is where magnetic and gravitational anomalies peak. If the ancients were seeking out these points of energetic transference to amplify things, maybe the same points, when left uncontrolled, become dangerous funnels of chaos. So the question isn't whether they knew where the portals were. The question is, did the ancients understand the Earth's operating system better than we do now, and are their sacred monuments simply giant global markers pointing to the spots where reality gets a little unstable? Drop a comment below and tell me, which ancient site do you think is the biggest energy anomaly? I'll be reading the comments. See you next time, deep divers. Stop scrolling. Look at this map. What if I told you that the builders of the pyramids, the Maya, and the mysterious structures of Easter Island were all using the exact same playbook? They weren't just building temples, they were mapping something far bigger, something that dictates the very flow of power across our planet. They were mapping energy. For millennia, ancient civilizations, separated by vast oceans and centuries, shared an almost identical obsession, placing their most sacred sites, their most architecturally complex cities, on very specific, seemingly predetermined coordinates. We're talking about places like the Great Pyramid of Giza, which sits almost perfectly at the intersection of the longest line of latitude and the longest line of longitude, essentially the geodetic center of the Earth's landmass. Coincidence? Maybe. But when you factor in dozens of other sites, the pattern becomes undeniable. This isn't just about good real estate. We are talking about the radical idea that these civilizations were deliberately building on what they perceived as points of power, places where the veil between worlds was thin or where spiritual energy was at its peak. Today we call this concept the global grid, or more commonly, ley lines. Imagine the Earth is not just a big rock, but a massive living organism, pulsating with currents of energy, like a gigantic electrical circuit board. Ley lines are theorized to be these natural pathways, channels where telluric energy, the electromagnetic current flowing through the Earth's crust, concentrates. Think of it like acupuncture for the planet. When you place a needle on a specific pressure point, you influence the flow of energy. And here's where it gets mind-bending. If you draw lines connecting major sacred sites, Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, the pyramids, the temples of Angkor Wat, they frequently align in perfect straight lines, often crossing over known geological fault lines or areas of high magnetic flux. The ancients didn't have satellites or GPS, so how did they know where to put these massive structures with such incredible precision? They didn't calculate the coordinates, they felt them. Consider places like Sedona, Arizona, famous today for its powerful vortexes. These vortexes are scientifically measurable zones of intense geomagnetic activity. The indigenous people of the area recognized this power long before modern tourists arrived. They understood that the iron-rich red rock, combined with specific geological stresses, created an environment where the Earth's natural magnetic field spirals outward, creating a palpable feeling of high energy. Now let's talk about the construction materials themselves. Many megalithic sites, like the massive stones used at the Temple of Jupiter at Baalbek or the sarsen stones at Stonehenge, contain high amounts of quartz. Why quartz? Quartz is a piezoelectric material. If you apply mechanical stress to it, like say the constant vibration of the Earth's crust or even just temperature changes, quartz generates an electrical charge. So when the ancients built massive structures using quartz-rich stone, particularly on ley lines or fault lines, they weren't just making a building, they were creating massive, intentional energy accumulators. They were amplifying the Earth's natural currents, potentially turning these sites into giant low-frequency broadcasters or receivers. If you're finding this concept of ancient global mapping absolutely fascinating, do me a favor, hit that like button and let me know in the comments which sacred site you think holds the most powerful secrets. We release deep dives like this every week, and you don't want to miss what we uncover next. But there is one detail that most people, even researchers, don't consider when they discuss ley lines. It's the ultimate plot twist: water. The relationship between sacred sites and water is staggering. Almost every major spiritual center in history, from Delphi to the Vatican to countless Native American ceremonial mounds, is situated near a water source, a spring, a river confluence, or the ocean. Why? Water is an incredible conductor of energy. More importantly, underground water flow, aquifers and subterranean rivers, generate measurable friction and electrical activity as they move through rock. This phenomenon, known as the streaming potential or electrokinetic effect, creates localized electromagnetic fields right above the ground. So when the ancient priests or shamans claimed they could feel the spirit of the land, were they sensing a deity? Or were they simply sensing the amplified hum of the planet's magnetic field being charged by underground rivers and quartz structures? It's possible that the portals they sought weren't gateways to another dimension, but rather points of maximum terrestrial energy transference, perfectly mapped locations where the Earth's natural power was so concentrated it induced altered states of consciousness, allowing them to feel truly connected to the cosmos. They weren't building randomly. They were tuning forks designed to resonate with the planet itself. The question then shifts from did they know where the portals were, to did they know how to engineer the land to create the spiritual experience? And based on the precision of their forgotten architecture, the answer might be a resounding yes. They knew exactly what they were doing, and their maps are still standing today waiting for us to finally read them correctly. Stop scrolling, stop right there. I need you to look at a map of the world, but not the political borders. Look at the ancient monuments, the pyramids of Giza, Stonehenge, the complex at Machu Picchu, and the mysterious structures on Easter Island. What do they have in common? For centuries, archaeologists treated these sites as isolated wonders, incredible feats of engineering, sure, but entirely separate cultural projects. But what if they aren't isolated at all? What if they are connection points on an invisible global circuit board, and the ancient builders knew exactly how to plug into it? We are diving deep into the theory that ancient civilizations mapped the Earth's spiritual power grid, deliberately placing their most important temples and cities on what they believed were high-energy transfer points, or, dare I say it, cosmic portals. This idea gained major traction in the early 20th century, thanks to a British photographer named Alfred Watkins. He was riding his horse through the English countryside when he noticed something bizarre. Ancient mounds, standing stones, and churches often lined up perfectly in straight paths, sometimes stretching for miles. He called these alignments ley lines. Now forget the New Age crystal stuff for a second. Watkins' initial observation was purely geometrical. He saw that if you drew a line connecting two ancient sites, that line often hit a third, a fourth, and even a fifth site, almost as if someone had laid down a massive invisible ruler across the landscape. Imagine the Earth is covered in these ancient highways, and every sacred monument is a rest stop, or more accurately, a massive power station. But the question isn't just if they line up. The question is why. Why would cultures separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years use the same construction blueprints? Mainstream science often dismisses ley lines as coincidence. After all, if you draw enough lines on a map, you're bound to hit a few points. However, the geometric precision found in global alignments is genuinely staggering. Take the Great Circle route, for example, which connects sites like Giza, Mohenjo-Daro, Easter Island, and the Nazca lines. When mapped on a globe, these sites fall astonishingly close to a single continuous line that circles the planet. It's almost as if the entire Earth was being used as a massive, pre-programmed calculator. So if these ancient civilizations weren't just randomly placing rocks, what were they tuning into? This is where the idea of geological energy comes in. It's a fact that certain parts of the Earth's crust are more magnetically active than others. Many sacred sites, Stonehenge for instance, are situated near geological fault lines or areas rich in crystalline quartz deposits. Think about quartz for a moment. Quartz is a piezoelectric material. That means when you subject it to mechanical stress, like the constant, subtle vibrations and pressures deep within the Earth's crust, it generates a measurable electrical charge. It literally converts mechanical energy into electromagnetic energy. Now imagine an entire ancient city, perhaps Tiahuanaco or the massive Olmec sites, built directly on top of a major tectonic stress point, saturated with quartz. Were the builders intentionally harnessing this natural, low-frequency electromagnetic field? Were they amplifying this natural energy signature? If you're already questioning everything you thought you knew about history, hit that like button and tell me in the comments, which ancient site do you think is the most mysterious? But here is the detail that will truly blow your mind, the ultimate plot twist in this global mystery. The synchronicity isn't just about straight lines, it's about the geometry of the planet itself. Researchers investigating the concept of a planetary energy web have identified what they call the global grid, a geometric framework often represented by a massive icosahedron or dodecahedron overlaid onto the Earth. The most powerful claimed nodes on this grid, the points where the energy lines intersect most densely, map almost perfectly to ancient power centers. Not only Giza, but also Bermuda, Lake Baikal in Siberia, and the massive underwater pyramid structures near Japan. These sites are not just geographically distant, they often share identical architectural principles, like the use of sacred geometry and precise astronomical alignment, suggesting a shared global knowledge base that existed thousands of years ago. It suggests that ancient peoples weren't just building temples to their local gods, they were building massive, geologically powered instruments designed to resonate with the Earth's natural frequency. They weren't just looking for good soil or defensible positions, they were looking for the cosmic hotspots, the places where the veil between worlds, or at least the energy flow of the planet, was thinnest. Maybe they weren't building portals in the science fiction sense, but perhaps they were creating massive antennae, capable of receiving and transmitting energy across the planet. If that's true, it means our modern maps are missing the most important infrastructure ever built, the ancient energy map of Earth. And the people who built it? They were far more sophisticated than we give them credit for. They were the ultimate cartographers of the cosmos. Stop scrolling, stop right there. I'm going to show you a secret map, a map drawn by ancient hands stretching across continents, hidden in plain sight for millennia. What if the most sacred, powerful, and mysterious sites on Earth, the Great Pyramid of Giza, Stonehenge, the temples of Machu Picchu, and even the obscure stone circles in rural China, were all built for the exact same purpose? Not just to worship the sun or bury kings, but to plug directly into the energy of the planet itself. We are talking about the possibility that our ancestors weren't just building randomly, they were mapping portals. For decades, this idea lived strictly on the fringes, dismissed as pseudoscience. But when you start connecting the dots, the pattern is so precise, so global, that it becomes impossible to ignore. Let's talk about ley lines. Imagine the Earth is a giant living circuit board. Just like your body has meridians or acupuncture points, the Earth is laced with invisible energetic pathways. These aren't roads or rivers. These are lines of perceived high energy flow, sometimes linked to magnetic anomalies or telluric currents, the natural electrical flow deep within the Earth's crust. Think of it as the planet's Wi-Fi network. The theory, popularized in the 1920s by archaeologist Alfred Watkins, suggests that ancient peoples, from Neolithic tribes to the mighty Egyptian dynasties, were experts at locating where these powerful lines intersected, and where those lines crossed, that's where they erected their massive structures. Why? Because an intersection of ley lines is often theorized to be a vortex, a point of maximum transference, a doorway. Take the Giza Plateau in Egypt. It's not just aligned with the cardinal directions with jaw-dropping precision, it sits on a very specific latitude that places it in direct geometric relationship with dozens of other major sites worldwide. Now follow the line thousands of miles across the Atlantic to the famous statues of Easter Island, Rapa Nui. These colossal heads, the moai, are often found to be positioned along what theorists suggest are ley line alignments, connecting them back to South America and across the Pacific. It's as if someone was drawing a massive invisible grid over the entire globe, marking the critical nodes. But the pattern gets even weirder when you look at the geometry. These aren't just straight lines drawn on a flat map. When plotted on a globe, many of these sites form incredibly precise, repeating geometric shapes, pentagrams, hexagons, and complex triangles. This isn't random positioning. This is sophisticated planetary-scale geometry. It suggests a knowledge of the Earth's spherical nature and its magnetic field that we typically only credit to modern cartographers. If you're finding this mind-blowing, hit that like button right now and tell me in the comments, which ancient site do you think is the most mysterious? Now here's the plot twist that separates this from mere coincidence. Many of these sacred sites, especially the megalithic stone circles like Stonehenge or Avebury in England, are not just built on these energetic hotspots. They seem designed to modulate that energy. We know that quartz crystals, which are abundant in the granite used in many megalithic structures, react strongly to pressure and electricity, a phenomenon called piezoelectricity. These ancient temples, built with massive quartz-rich stones, placed on geomagnetically active zones, might have functioned like gigantic passive energy generators or receivers. They weren't just places of worship. They were machines designed to interact with the Earth's frequency. Imagine an ancient shaman or priest not just praying to the sky, but literally tuning the massive stone circle to resonate with the Schumann resonance, the low-frequency electromagnetic pulse that encircles the Earth. They weren't seeking a god in the clouds. They were accessing a deeper reality rooted in the very structure of the planet. Were these ancient builders mapping spiritual power, or were they mapping a physical, measurable force that modern science is only beginning to rediscover? The truth is, whether you call them portals, energy vortexes, or simply geological anomalies, the evidence is compelling. Ancient civilizations shared a global, unified knowledge system that dictated exactly where to build their most powerful structures. They knew the map, and they knew the power that lay beneath their feet. The question isn't if they knew where the spots were. The question is, what did they use those spots for, and are those ancient doorways still active today? If you want to keep exploring the true secrets hidden by history and science, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. Don't let these incredible facts slip back into the dark. Until next time, keep questioning everything you think you know.